Hey YouTube, YouTube back. Didn't intend to make another video this week, but things happen as they do, and as I'm sure most people have probably either heard of or seen, Nintendo had another one of those Nintendo Direct videos, and they unveiled the new 3DS, or 3DS XL. Basically bigger, and that about sums it up. So I could leave the video there. There's a new bigger 3DS, let's leave it. But that wouldn't be that wouldn't be interesting. So, what are my thoughts on it? I kind of figured, when I seen the video it bugged me. So I figured, you know what, I'll kind of rant a little and let out steam. It'll be cathartic. Anyway, the first thing that I've seen people say is, oh, well, here we go with the Nintendo revisions. Yes, that's true. But to be honest, I think people are making too much of a deal about that. The days where you have something like the Game Boy come out and you don't have a revision for like 4 or 5 years, that's well gone. Even if you look at the Game Boy line, you had the Game Boy to the Game Boy Pocket, kind of a gap before an update, then to the Game Boy Color, shorter gap, to the Game Boy Advance, shorter gap, SP, shorter gap. So every successive model, before the next one came out, the gap was getting shorter and shorter, until pretty much it's now every year you get a new model. And Sony do the same thing, Apple do the same thing with their products. This is just how manufacturers make their profits. They want you to keep buying. And I'll tie into another point I'm going to make later on. So, that itself didn't really bother me. It was more when I seen the model itself. I was kind of, Now, if you look at the 3DS as it is, it's a decent system, very much in the DS family line. It's a little heavy, but it's not bad. The screens are decent size. It's good. It's a good DS system. A few faults, one of which they did correct. These buttons here, I don't know what type of buttons they've used. They're kind of membrane-like or something. They're horrible. I hate them. They actually now in the new 3DS XL, they have three proper buttons. That's a big improvement. Nintendo, glad you did it. Now, another common issue with the 3DS is the battery life. I've mentioned this before. So they have increased the battery life from under 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, to about 6 hours. That's good. It's going in the right direction at the very least. But given the size of the new model, I kind of assumed, well, we're going to put in a bigger battery. But then they said, well, with the bigger screens, it draws down the battery, so it was a trade-off. Disappointing. It would have been nice if there was a better battery life. When it went from the DS original to the DS Lite, there was a good, jump in battery and light technology. So it was great to see better screens with a better battery, a good step up, and lighter, smaller. I knew when it went from the DS original to the DS Lite, okay, that's a sort of increase all round package that makes me want to buy again. The 3DS XL, not so much. It's kind of like, we made it a bit bigger. That's it. I mean, they have bigger screens, and I will say that, apparently the screens are 90% bigger, which is quite an increase. They do look like they're big screens, and playing some games on them I'm sure would be great. They demoed Mario, and I'm sure that would be lovely on them. But of course, the resolutions will stay the same, so you'll have people complaining about jagged edges and whatnot, especially if you're playing DS games, because if you're going to play with borders, the borders are going to be much bigger and so on. Probably not the best experience then for the new Pokemon Black and White game coming out. So, however, yeah, it just seems so half-hearted. Another complaint was, well, the one stick here. They brought out the Control Pad Pro thing, an abomination, but because basically the unit sits into it and you have a second stick that doesn't even get power from the 3DS, presumably because it can barely power itself, and you get power from a battery. Obvious thing to do would be, when you have a bigger model, stick on a second stick. And that would alleviate, I think, a lot of people's complaints with the system, but also enable developers to say, well, a good proportion of the user base are going to have a second stick. With Control Pad Pro, geez, I'm really struggling with that. A lot of people aren't going to have it, so why develop for it? It's like any accessory, you always get marginal support. And we're still early enough in the lifespan where you could say, okay, the majority of units aren't going to be of this variety, they'll be of the next variety. Let's put the second stick in and have the accessory for those that want to upgrade their original model. Not great I know it's kind of, it would be Nintendo basically putting their hands up saying, oh, we should have put a second stick on it. And clearly they don't want to, because they didn't do that. And on top of that, with the bigger form factor, the Control Pad Pro won't actually fit the new 3DS. So if you bought your existing one, tough. It's not going to have that option. So games like Resident Evil, Metal Gear, Kid Icarus, which apparently all play better with the second stick, you're tough out of luck. Better off with this model. And there are even some of the experiences that have kind of the fancier graphics that surely would benefit from the bigger screen, but however. Now, all of that, I could get over any of those things. They're more kind of like, just I'm whining for the sake of whining. The one thing that really pisses me off is the fact that all you get in the box is the system and the SD card. And that's it. Well, presumably you get AOR cards and, you know, manual or whatever, but when you got this, you got the charger and you got the dock thing. I don't care for the dock, but some people do. I can see where they're going with it. That was grand. With the 3DS XL, you ain't getting a charger. Now, I think that is one of the most stupid things Nintendo have ever done. Like, people complain about the Virtual Boy. Well, you know what? You were able to power the damn Virtual Boy. It may have given you headaches, but at least you could get the damn thing to play when you brought it home. With the 3DS XL, if you don't have a DS, or if you don't know you have to buy another adapter, you're bum out of luck. You get it home, you open the box up, hey, there's no power cord. So you can run down the battery that's pre-charged halfway or whatever it is when you get the model, but that's it. So back to the shops you go to buy probably a jacked up priced spare charger. That is absolutely ridiculous. It just reeks of greed. Now bear in mind that the 3DS XL is going to be more expensive than the DS. It's going to be $200. They say, oh, bigger screen size and, you know, bigger battery. They're going to increase from a 2 gig to a 4 gig card for all the downloading you're going to do. Oh yeah, all the downloading. Oh, 2 gigs. With retail games, 2 gigs, that'll go far. Oh. But that does not. I mean, though, yes, bigger screens are more expensive. But what they've done is not, I mean, manufacturing wise, that doesn't add that much cost. Especially when you consider they're taking out the dock and the charger. They're probably taking out exactly the same cost, but bumping up the price of the unit. Cheeky sods. You know, it's ridiculous. I just can't get over it. Hence this video. I'm still in shock. And I think they're just going to cause bad will with it, to be honest. It reminds me of Microsoft with the Xbox 360. And everything's an accessory that's ridiculously expensive. I know some people would say, well, with your MP3 and with some phones and things like that, you don't necessarily get a charger anymore. Yes, that's a bit sucky too, but most of those devices come with a USB cable and can be charged off USB. Like if you get an MP3 player, chances are you have a PC to transfer music onto it, so you can use the cable to charge it. Not ideal, because you have to have your laptop on or whatever, but at least you can charge it. Now the 3DS does not use standard USB, far from it. You can get a cable for it, but again you're having to buy a separate cable. So you don't even have that option. It's mind-bogglingly stupid, and to give it as some sort of reason for keeping the cost down to the consumer, like we're doing you a favour by not bundling it in. I mean, their actual terms were, well, a lot of people already have, you know, a cable from their DSi or for their 3DS, so we don't want to basically put the cost onto them. So what you're basically saying is, all the chumps who, you know, a year ago bought your last model are now going to buy your current model, so we're not going to give you a cable. You're acknowledging the fact that most of the people that you're selling to or targeting this at aren't new customers. They aren't new gamers or whatever buying consoles, expanding your user base. Your sales figures may say you're selling so many DSs, but if you're selling them to the same crowd, the actual user base is still small. And they could use the argument, oh, well, 2 people in the house could be using it. Yeah, that's borderline, but I don't know. It's a remarkably baffling decision, and it it just reeks of corporate greed. I had thought they were starting to kind of learn their lesson after the DS, the 3DS itself launched at a ridiculously high price point and got fairly shunned until they reduced the price. And I thought, okay, maybe kind of a bit of humbling there might make them see sense. And to be fair, they have been doing a lot better in terms of bringing out more games to market sooner and getting other people in like Retro to help them with Mario Kart 7 to keep a flow of product. And that's good. They needed to do this, but maybe the 3DS has started to regain too many sales, and they're like, well, let's go back to our old ways. And yeah, didn't they say like 2 weeks ago at E3, oh, we've no news on a 3DS remodel, no news because, well, we want to save that for 2 weeks time. I know they just didn't want to take attention away from the Wii U and all that, but it's like the way they're going, oh, there's absolutely nothing, no news, we're not remodeling the DS, no. Oh, you mean that warehouse full of new 3DSs? Because if you watch the European one, it was presented from a warehouse full of 3DS XLs. Already ready to go, like just to be shipped out to the stores. Yeah, they didn't know about it. Oh, anyway. I think I'll leave it there. Surely it's well clear that I am not impressed at all with the 3DS XL. I'm sure it'll be a nice system, the screens will be lovely, but to be honest, some of the things that Nintendo are doing with it are questionable at the very least. Shame on you, Nintendo. I expect better. Or really, should I? I should probably expect worse. Anyway, hope you enjoyed despite the slightly ranty nature, and yeah, I'll be back soonish in the next few days, probably with a Renegade playthrough, because I've been enjoying that game. And yeah, we'll see you then. Click to subscribe, and yeah, thumbs up.